So Ed Sheeran has just landed his ninth #1 album in the UK, with his new album Play hitting a top spot this week. It's been 1 week since the album's been released, and it's just been announced today that Ed has landed his ninth #1 album in the UK, and we're going to get into it. So Ed Sheeran's latest album offering was called Play. It was obviously via Atlantic, which is, where he spent the majority of his career, a label that's really sort of seen him grow and develop over time. And he's basically yet again reached the summit of the UK album charts. So Play is it's his ninth consecutive chart-topping album. So Sheeran has reached the summit with all his studio albums and the tour album, and it's his second chart topper of the year, following the plus equals might divide it, whatever it's called, tour collection, which is the tour album basically, which is still in the top 10 of the UK charts. So we're gonna break down the numbers here, but basically, Ed Sheeran, legend in the game, everybody loves him, I guess. We'll talk about that later, but basically, he's done it again, right? He's Ed Sheeran. He always delivers. This is, again, another studio album. And we've talked about Warner already. We did a video about Warner. And, we did a video discussing the sort of decline of the UK. But here we are again, Ed Sheeran, #1 album in the UK. And we're going to get into the numbers now. So we're looking at Ed Sheeran's new album. The opening total for the week, 67,654 units, right? So just so everybody's clear, just so you're aware, in case you're not too aware of how this works, essentially, album chart every week, calculate the amount of sales, and these sales are basically calculated when you add up all the different formats available to consume an album, right? So we're talking about CDs, vinyls, cassettes, streaming, downloads, all of that stuff. And we're going to get into this, and this article does break it down, but we're going to open up the charts because the charts sort of give you a much easier sort of way to digest it. For me personally, I think it's, you get to see a lot more in this layout. But basically here you'll see #1 album of the week, Play by Ed Sheeran. And here's the total sales units. So 67,654, right? So through Asylum, through Atlantic Records. Now this is the interesting bit. So we're getting into the physical sales here. So this is, like I said, this is your cassettes, this is your vinyls, this is your CDs, whatever offering the label or the campaign had for this album. This is that number counted up. How many of those units did they sell in the first week, right? So we're looking at almost 50,000 of this 67,000 units being physical. Now, I would say for well-established acts, that's actually probably relatively normal in UK week 1 album reporting. Like, a lot of these artists really heavily rely on the physical aspect in order to bump their position up the sales charts, right? And it's no different with Ed Sheeran. Ed Sheeran's going to do the same thing. He's got a massive fan base. People are always going to buy his physical album product. People still like to hold and have something physical. And so, we're seeing almost 50,000 of these sales, of these 67,000 sales, coming from the physical element. And I think to the common person that isn't really tapped into music industry and whatnot, they might find that really surprising that the majority of these sales numbers still actually come from, physical records or vinyl or whatnot. Especially considering how much these tracks and these artists are streamed, and the streaming numbers that you're seeing every day being reported. But we're gonna get into that in a minute. So that's the physical element of it. Then we get onto the download. So it's mad. It's mad because you think about it, downloading is like iPod days. That's when you go on iTunes, you cop the single for 9.99 pence or 79 pence, or the album for 8.99 or 12.99 or whatever it was, and you download these tracks. They're on your iTunes. They're in your iTunes files, they're in your library, your iTunes library, and they're yours. You're downloading them. You're doing what you need to do with them. And it's crazy, but it's still a very relevant format, and it's a format that a lot of campaigns and artists lean on heavily, especially, again, in their first week to drive that streaming number. And so you might see competitions where it's download my single, send proof, and I'll enter you in this competition, or you'll get to hear a snippet of a track, or do you know what I mean? Whatever these ideas are, you typically see a lot of them with campaigns that are gunning for that number one or high position in an album chart in their first week in the UK. Probably worldwide, probably in the US as well, but definitely from my experience, what we've seen in the UK. Now, then we get to the really interesting part, which is the album streams or the album equivalent streams. So out of the 67,000 units, 9,416 of these have been equated to streaming, right? So significantly lower amount than physical. Pretty much very on par with downloads as well, which I find quite fascinating as well, right? And the reason, the first thing is, I think a lot of people still may be a little bit confused about the fact, and I was in the labels, like the charts, people are changing their rules all the time, and there's introducing this and that and the third, and there's a lot of different, there's a lot of different things to consider here. But when we're talking about basically album equivalent streams, there's typically a ratio or a formula applied to calculate how many sales units you will give for the amount of streams that an album has had, right? So out of these 67,000 sales that Ed Sheeran has had in this first week, they're equating 9,416 sales. Now, for those that don't fully understand it, in the UK, I might be wrong on this, correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, but I'm pretty sure this is the most accurate, up-to-date explanation. In the UK, 1,000 streams of an album's top 12 tracks, after weighting the top 2, are converted to one album equivalent sale for the chart, for the UK chart. And basically it's aggregating the streams from the most popular tracks or songs on an album, and it adjusts the weighting of the top 2. Typically what you'll see with a lot of album campaigns is you'll have a single, a second single, maybe even a third or fourth single, and typically these singles have the most streams on an album. And we'll probably see this if we look at Ed Sheeran's now. If we go to play, typically you'll see, so correct me if I'm wrong again, but I'm pretty sure Azizam was the first single from this campaign, right? So big single, big launch, they push it out, there's a video, there's activations, there's campaign, there's this, there's that, there's a third. And as you'll see here, it's already racked up almost 300 million streams, which is way ahead of any other track on this album, right? We've still got some tracks on, this is just Spotify, by the way, we're not counting Apple or Amazon or Deezer or YouTube, etc. But look, there's some tracks on here that have just crossed 500,000 streams, in a week. And then you compare that to the 289 million that Azizam has, it's not really equal. It's, so to weight the rest of the album based on a red herring and outperforming track, it wouldn't really be too fair, right? So I understand their sort of reasoning. I still, the chart thing is a whole debate, and it's almost like, who the hell decided that 1,000 equals 1, and there's a lot of things to consider. There's the value of like how much it costs for an album and all that stuff to consider, right? But that's another conversation. For now, we're looking at how many streams this album did in order to equate to the 9,416 sales, right? So that's kind of how it works. And then basically they divide that overall number with the two sort of adjusted singles by 1,000, and that produces the album equivalent unit for the chart, and that's what they add into the chart, and then they add that with the physical, with the downloads, and then you get your total number. So looking at it, 67,000 units sold, it seems pretty impressive, right? And it's his ninth number one album. Sorry, he's done super well to achieve that. And considering when, I don't even know when his first album was. I feel like it was a while ago. If we go through his discography here, it was the Plus album, 2011, man, 2011. Was that the A Team? I feel like that was the A Team. Yeah, so that was 1 billion streams on the A Team. 1 billion streams. Yeah, that was a banger. I remember that. You Need Me, I Don't Need You. I swear he had was it an Example or a Retry 2 remix of this as well. So yeah, this was 2011. So what's that, like 14 years ago? So like 14 years ago, Ed Sheeran, Plus album. So, he's been doing it for a while, and despite having a number 1 album this week, what really sort of interests me is the sales number. So 67,000 for first week, you consider it quite strong. For context, I'm not actually sure. Should we have a look at what if we have a look at what the previous week was? So I think it was Sabrina Carpenter last week, if I'm not mistaken, that had the number 1 album. So she had it with... Is that how many weeks ago was it? Was it 2 weeks ago? So maybe we need to go back to week 36 or 35. Let's try week 36. So week 36, Sabrina Carpenter was number 1, but she had 85,000 sales. So almost 20,000 units more than what Ed Sheeran did. Very similar physical number, actually. Still in 47,000. Downloads was 800. There was only 825 downloads, and this is for the UK, by the way. This doesn't include the US. But look at the album equivalent streams difference. 37,000 units equated from streaming compared to Ed Sheeran's 8 or 9,000 units, right? So whilst you would consider 60 a strong number, you're comparing it to the likes of the current of the day superstars, not to discredit Ed Sheeran in any way, but, significantly larger numbers being done, right? Significantly larger. Now, what we really need to look at, and I feel like it's fair to say that this is probably reflective of his artist career journey with regards to peaking and then sort of declining slowly, or the arc, the curve, as you would kind of expect, are previous sales numbers of his previous albums. Previous sales numbers of his previous albums. So, we look at feel like they've done. They already had Sabrina's Carpenter number here, 85,000 units. So the result for Play is not far off his 2023 album Subtract, which opened with consumption of 76,000 units, right? So he's gone from 76,000 from his last studio album down to 67,000, so about 9,000 less of this studio album Play. Although it's down on the 139,000 that Equal secured in 2021. So that was his other studio album back from 2021, from this whole series. That one did 139,000, right? So, and I'm sure before that the numbers were even were even more impressive, right? I'm sure that the Multiply album, we can have a look here. So Ed Sheeran first week sales UK album history. Let's see if the AI gives us an answer. So here we go. So albums achieved highest first week in the UK, notably for Divide, which sold 672,000 units in 2017. In the first week in the UK, 672,000 units. That is insane. Is that not? I swear that's platinum straight away. I'm sure it's 600. Is it 600,000 albums for platinum? How many albums for platinum in the UK? I'm sure it is 600. Oh, it's only 300. It's only 300. That shows me, man. Like they owe me some platinum plaques. I can't lie. They owe me some platinum plaques. But yeah. So we're looking at basically in 2017, which I would probably say was the peak of Ed Sheeran powers, right? Like that Divide album was. I swear that had all the bangers. It had that one that everyone plays at their wedding. It had Shape of You. Yeah, there we go. So Shape of You. What else did it have? I swear it had a lot. It had some bangers, man. Happier. That Galway Girl, Perfect. Yeah, see, look, there's like 4 or 5 like global hits in a row on this track list. Insane, right? Insane. So that was probably, I would say, the peak of his powers with regards to like studio album releases. So to go double platinum in your first week, with no features. Ed Sheeran's not really a feat. Well, he has been recently. We're going to talk about that in a minute as well. But this is J Cole level. I'm joking. I'm trolling. Don't get mad. But that's J Cole level. Double platinum, no features. First week UK. So that's pretty incredible, right? So, but what I'm trying to get at is we're basically seeing a decline, and I think it's fair. I think it goes in line with sort of an artist's career arc. Like you're gonna be at your peak at some stage, and then you're gonna sort of dip a little bit, and we've seen that consecutively now with these album sales numbers. So from 2021, 139k down to 76k in 2023, and then another 2 years later down to 67k. And remember, these are only first week numbers. I don't think they're completely indicative of the performance overall commercially of any artists, their relevance, their cultural relevance. I think it can be indicative. It's certainly not the be all and end all. I don't think Ed Sheeran will ever be irrelevant. I think he's a superstar of different proportion. His collaborations and everything that he's done in his career and for UK music in general is huge, right? But what we're saying is that we're starting to see, Ed Sheeran, just like all other global superstars, they're not immortal. Like yes, their music and their art and their whatever they've contributed to the world will probably last forever, as long as there's technology. But their first week numbers, their sales, their consumption in general, as with everything, will eventually decline from their peak powers. So that's what we're starting to see with Ed. But either way, congrats to him, man. Like and his whole team obviously is a big team put in this work, and another #1 album, which is huge. And I think there was a lot of different things they did with this album as well. I have to be honest, I haven't taken it in fully yet. I obviously saw the first single. I am very much aware of his presence within different music cultures and genres. I went to the Diljit concert that he popped out in Birmingham. So, he's very much been active for the last couple of years. I'm pretty sure they did some sort of events in London as well. So this was it. So they had a pop-up shop at the Outernet in London this week to celebrate the release of Play. Although there was actually something I wanted to talk about here as well with regards to the first week sales, is that I think they mentioned here. So the result for Play is not far off his other 2023 album, Subtract, which opened a consumption of 76,263 units. And that's down from 139 in the Equals album in 2021. It's worth noting, though, that there was no tour bundling pre-order mechanic to boost the UK Week 1 result for Play as part of Atlantic's campaign. So this is also a really interesting tactic that a lot of artists and campaigns use and labels use. And that is basically selling bundles with tour tickets or merch or whatnot, so that, those albums that are included in those sales are actually also included in the chart, right? So if you want to buy a ticket to his tour, and they announce a tour when the album's coming out, so then just as a fan to ensure that you're gonna secure your ticket to that show and not be in that Ticketmaster war, you are gonna basically buy a bundle. So you're gonna get the album, you're gonna get pre-sale access to the tour, you might get a bit of merch as well, and that one sale will count toward this chart number that we're seeing, right? So they're saying they didn't employ this for this particular campaign. Maybe that's because he wasn't touring. I don't think he was on tour anyway, or he's not about to tour. They might announce one soon, but yeah, so that's probably why they didn't employ that there, and as a result, they didn't have that mechanic to lean on to boost the number, which it probably would have significantly boosted it by thousands of sales, right? So that's fair enough to note. But either way, I don't think it's necessarily a reason to basically, I don't really think that that's significant enough to offset the natural organic decline that we're seeing on the sales numbers here. So yeah, that's that. But either way, I think they did a lot with this campaign. They had this pop-up store in London. It was at the Outernet. So I think they were basically sort of giving like a fan experience, or like a playing the music for the artists. Looks like he also did a tiny desk as well. So you know, he was active. He was active in this. He was doing the most. So, and they had a range of limited edition merch, vinyl and cassette, including signed products. Signing is a massive way that they boost these numbers, sales numbers as well. They had a bunch of stuff, man. They had a bunch of stuff. So that's really where we at. The other thing I think I wanted to note on this one was basically Ed's really been, in the last few years, I think it's fair to say that he's really sort of leaned into different cultures, right? And he's been, he popped out at the Diljit Dosanjh show, and for those that don't know, Diljit Dosanjh is basically the Superman of India. He's a Punjabi artist, actor, singer, dancer extraordinaire. Like, he does everything, right? He's done blockbuster films. He's an amazing musician, world tours, all that stuff, right? And popped out of that show. I think they did some video or tracks together. But interestingly enough, on the deluxe edition of this Play album, so again, Ed no features. Apart from this last track on the deluxe album, which is with Arijit Singh, who is basically another sort of Punjabi singing extraordinaire superstar. Like, he's a huge artist from India, from Punjab. 47 million monthly listeners, Arijit Singh, and basically they worked on a track together, a remix or sort of a remake, a joint make of Sapphire, one of the tracks off this Play album. I haven't seen too much about it, to be honest. I haven't looked about it too much, but I know that this will have a huge relevance for, that Indian market that, there's Indian and Punjabi fans that Ed has. And the other thing to note about Arijit Singh is that he basically is I believe he was the first Punjabi artist to sell out a stadium in the UK. And this was only a few weeks ago, right? This was like for in the Tottenham Hotspur, in the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. He had a show. Here we go. So, globally renowned singer Arijit Singh made history as the first Indian artist to ever headline a UK stadium, which he did earlier in September. I did see a video about this being cut short. Oh, it's here. Apparently, they went over time and they cut the concert short. Which actually, like, number one, considering it's like a global superstar, let's have a look and see.
Cat food.
Let's see what happened here, because
arriving today with Amazon Prime,
and it's
that's off your mind. So now you can worry about something else, like.
I'm not gonna lie,
Arijit Singh's highly anticipated concert at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium ended in a shocking anti-climax as power was cut off mid-performance, leaving thousands of fans stunned and heartbroken.
That's wild. Let's have a look.
Known for his soulful ballad, fireworks that were part of the show continue to go off in the background. Now, Arijit Singh, the first Indian.
So the fireworks. So he had, as you know, a lot of artists end on a massive crescendo, and they have like fireworks, and so they're saying the fireworks continued even though the music and everything else had stopped.
Artist who headlined the iconic UK stadium had been performing for over 3 hours. A fan's video post on social media platforms.
3 hours is crazy. 3 hour set. This is what I'm saying about like what people don't understand about Punjabi and Indian artists. Like they come different, bro. Like Diljit was on that stage, like dancing, like just doing his arse off, man. Like he was performing. He had a whole band and a crew and like a dance group, and what a show. Like, don't get me wrong, I just went to see Coldplay not long ago. Incredible show as well. But to do a 3 hour set, bro, a 3 hour set. I've never sat at through a 3 hour set before. Never.
Forums claimed the singer had pleaded for an extra 20 minutes to complete his set, but the stadium management pulled the plug at the strict curfew time. The abrupt conclusion has sparked a passionate debate online. Many fans expressed their disappointment, arguing that the stadium should have shown more flexibility for such a landmark event. Others, however, defended the venue's decision, citing strict noise regulations and a rules are rules stance.
Rules are rules. I mean, it depends. I don't know what time it actually went on till, but if it was a 3 hour set, it probably went on for a while. But yeah, man, like I don't know if you can be just cutting that, man. Like this is the iconic performance. First indie, like what, like could you imagine them doing that for Beyonce? Probably not, innit? Let's be real. Like I don't think, and if they did, there would be hell on earth to pay. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, I don't know. But either way, man, Ed Sheeran's tapped in with this guy. Ed Sheeran's tapped in with a lot of guys, and so you know, I think his success is great. To see him land a ninth #1 album, incredible in the UK. So big up Ed Sheeran, big up the team, and yeah, follow and subscribe for more. Thank you guys for watching. We'll see you on the next one.